Thank you all for being here and for participating in this live Zoom meeting. I am very happy and honored to see so many of you and to see your faces. If you wish, you can turn on the webcam on your computers. So let us start this important event. The mode is an experiment for us, but we can already say that we are confident it will turn out well, considering the large number of participants and speakers who have been invited to speak this morning. I would like to introduce the work of the conference in general. This morning's live meeting is only one of many events, perhaps the most important, within a larger program that lasts 3 days. And today is the final day. We had to obviously comply with the requirements of the ministerial decree that imposed the suspension of on-site conferences and meetings. We quickly organized, but I must say also with great results, this 3-day meeting, a distance meeting. We have created a reserved area of the Theatres of Diversities website, and within this reserved area, up until midnight today, it is possible to access a series of materials that have been uploaded. They provide an important insight of the variety of contributions within this group that, I must say, works so well together and that grows more and more each year. This is the 21st edition of the International Theatres of Diversities Conference. It was started in 2000 and it has never been interrupted since. So this is the 21st edition of a conference promoted by the review Catarsi, Teatri, delle, diversità, founded in 1996 at the University of Urbino Carlo Bo by myself and by Emilio Pozzi. I'd like to commemorate Emilio Pozzi 10 years after his passing in 2010, on the 23rd of April 2010 to be precise. On the occasion of the 10th anniversary, we were right in the middle of the lockdown. We could simply write and share a commemoration statement, but we will certainly organize something more important to remember him in the coming months or next year. The Theatres of Diversity conference had a series of positive repercussions as the creation in January 2011 of the National Coordination of Theatre in Prison, an Italian association founded by 12 companies, which now has around 60 members. If anyone is interested in finding out more about the activities of the National Coordination, there is a special website called www.teatrocarcere.it, which can be visited and which contains various materials on the work carried out over the last 10 years. It will also be one of the topics of this event at the end of the meeting, involving the protagonists of its current planning group. We must also thank the numerous institutions that support this conference, our conference. There are a lot of institutions starting from the University of Urbino, but also the municipality of Urbania, which has always hosted us since 2011, and that was ready to host us again this year in compliance with all the prevention protocols related to COVID-19. The conference is supported within the national project Destini Incrociati by the Ministry for Cultural Heritage and Tourism, and sponsored by the Ministry of Justice, and in particular by the Department of Penitentiary Administration and the Department for Juvenile and Community Justice. Among other things, the Department for Penitentiary Administration has also authorized us to upload and share some videos which were filmed inside penitentiary institutions for the 3-day conference. Many others will be presented during the day dedicated to the Theatre in Prison national event. The videos that are available until midnight today are those that refer to the reference area for the conference, which is the Marche region, with the involvement of a significant project of the Progetti e Teatro Company from Parma in Emilia-Romagna. The Justice Department is an interregional department, and it includes the regions of Marche and Emilia-Romagna. The title of this edition of the conference is Dialogues between Pedagogy, Theatre and Prison. I'll tell you more in a moment, but first I'd like to share with you a video who has been added to the reserved area last night, a video from Patrizio Gonnella, president of Antigone. Antigone is an association promoting rights and guarantees within the penitentiary system. We owe them gratitude for the monitoring they do on what happens inside Italian prisons. Let's listen to this video because I think it is significant also for the message it gives to all of us. It lasts 2 minutes. I am Patrizio Gonnella, the president of the Antigone Association, and I wish to send you a greeting on my name and on the name of the Antigone Association, which has had the honor and the pleasure to be among those who sponsored these days of sharing and dialogue on the relationship between pedagogy, theatre, prison, diversity. We believe in it. After all, we bear a tragic name, a name that has been represented in theatres so many times. Antigone as the antithesis of the suffering produced by the law. Antigone as the antithesis of Korean. Antigone that, with her sense of justice, goes against a system that is sometimes aggressive and fails to understand diversity. Theatre is a great opportunity, but we have to consider that it is not just that. It should not be limited only to the context of therapy. Theatre is an art and representation. Theatre belongs to culture. Theatre is culture, and therefore, as such, it is also a right. As a consequence, we must consider theatre life in prison as a right, on a par with many other rights. This is a kind of cultural revolution that we must not shy away from, because sometimes we censor ourselves. Those who make theatre, even those who promote theatre, or those who, like us, are involved in monitoring, in litigation, in cultural promotion, in the dissemination of ideas, we are used to somehow censor ourselves by considering our role as the one of outsiders in a prison context. We ask ourselves, how can I say, probably because of too much self-censorship, just like if some things can be done or not. Well, we have to get used to the state that the fundamental right to education is there and the fundamental right to culture exists as rights. And so, in this sense, we have to assert our role as essential actors in the prison system. Thank you, Patrizio Gonella, for your message. I'd like to go now back to the conference program and tell you more about the materials shared in the reserved area of the website. If you haven't done so already, you have the possibility to watch educational work testimonials. The first from the Totocorde Association, which works in the Terni prison, and the second from the La Lutte Company, which works in the prison of Siena and also organizes a social theatre festival in the city. The international section includes documentation from El Salvador. I see Giovanna Donia online. Hello. She has developed and continues to develop projects in the field of international cooperation, in this case aimed at minors. I would also like to mention a special section always present within our conference, curated by Mariano Dolci. I see you online. Hello, Mariano. He has organized for several years dialogue interviews focusing on animation theatre with puppets, marionettes, shadows, and animated objects in the social sphere. This year, with a nice dialogue interview, he shares with us the experience of Alessandro Libertini and Veronique Na of the Piccoli Principi Company. Another surprise that we have added to the traditional space curated by Mariano is the one coming from the Amleto e Donato Sartori International Museum of the Mask. I would like to thank here Paola Pizzi Sartori, Sara Sartori, and Walter Valeri. They are collaborating with the museum, and they have shared with us a contribution on a historical project carried out in the years between 1987 and 1989 inside the Padua prison using masks. This is a very interesting sign for us, as we are also working on documenting the history of prison theatre in Italy, particularly over the last 40 years. The editorial section is also very rich. I know that all the authors of the 5 books presented in the section are online with us. Thank you very much indeed. I am referring to Grazia Isoardi, who in her speech will also tell us a little bit about the project that led to the creation of the book Il Bosco Buonanotte, Good Night Forest, I Cuccioli dell'Isis, The Cups of Isis by Fra Stefano Luca, an extremely interesting documentation of the work of his department within the Capuchin Order, the Department of Theatrical Studies and Research. They are focusing on child soldiers and on how theatre can have a role in the educational work with them. Prison Rules is the title of Paola Iacobone's book, which compares the Italian reality of theatre in prison with the English one. This study has been just published, but the other volumes have been published very recently too. Oltrepassare il muro, Overcoming the Wall, is a book by Juan Pablo Santi. Hello, Juan Pablo. I see you are connected. It refers to an experience of community mediation in prison. In this respect, many steps forward are being done at an international level, so you can listen to Juan Pablo's presentation. L'Educazione Poetica, Poetic Education, is the latest book by Claudio Mustacchi. Hello, Claudio, I saw you earlier online. He is also a lecturer at the SUPSI University in Switzerland. His work contains testimonials of educational work carried out in prisons. Not only in prisons, but references done to the topics of our conference. So I would like to return to the guiding theme, dialogues between pedagogy, theatre and prison, as I would like to open this morning's conference with the first part of a testimonial available to you in full in the reserved area of the dialogue interview with Andrea Canevaro. Andrea Canevaro is Professor Emeritus of Special Pedagogy at the University of Bologna and a member of the scientific committee of our magazine, of our review Catarsi, Teatri, delle, diversità. Since the very beginning, he is talking to me about the relationship between pedagogy, theatre and prison. Let's listen to these first 5 minutes of a speech that lasts 22 minutes. Punishments cannot consist in a treatment contrary to the sense of humanity. This is the title of an in-depth study that the review L'integrazione scolastica e sociale, Social and School Integration, dedicated to the theme of prison. Your editorial on the theme of prison in the time of pandemic was also very interesting. There are initial and very beautiful references to Nelson Mandela, who says that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. Let's say that this knowledge of prison is also fundamental, just as Dostoevsky says that a society can be judged by entering its prisons. Do you want to add something to these two? The two individuals you mentioned are quite important, but I would like to add a third one, Primo Levi. Would you allow me to invite Primo Levi? Yes, of course. Because Primo Levi seems to me very useful for understanding that a prison should not be Auschwitz. It should not be an extermination camp, and Primo Levi can help us in this, because there was a whole organization that seemed perfect, but it was never perfect. And when Primo Levi was selected in a very precise way by a certain doctor, he found himself in front of the table that this doctor kept as protection against the individual in front of him. The doctor only had to look at what he could still be useful for before destroying him. There was a book, a chemistry book called Gutenberg, which was by the same author, the same book that Primo Levi had studied on at the University of Turin. This made him not just a piece of human material that had to be sacrificed, first used and then sacrificed, but he was a human being. He was not a human material, he was a human being. I think this is important because everyone enters a prison with a story, and he needs to live with his story in the future. Now, I am talking to you, Vito, because you understand extremely well what it means to do theater in prison. It means learning to be in a character that is not yourself. Therefore, you must train to think that you are not only who you are, but you are also the person you can be. There is an extra opportunity, and it can be very important for someone who has caused damage to others. I would also add that it is the first step towards a request for forgiveness, which is not a formal legal matter. It is more like a spiritual matter. This is a word that I use very carefully, but it becomes really a matter of a mental dimension of the person of truly asks for forgiveness. So it is not a legal matter, but an inner force that is present, is there in a theater context. Theater trains this multiple roles, with a transition from a role in which you are guilty to a role in which you ask for forgiveness, and then there will be a third role that allows you to be at peace, which is very important. Okay, very well. The video can be seen in full in the reserved area of the website, where it will also be possible to read the greetings of Marisa Pavone, the editor of the Rivista di Integrazione Scolastica e Sociale, Review of School and Social Integration, which hosted this monograph, and which also consists of 2 more contributions shared during our conference last year. I am referring to the work of the colleagues from the University of Las Palmas. Grazia Isoardi will tell us more about their work, as well as Mariano Dolci, who last year interviewed the puppeteers who do theater in prison activities in France, in particular in Paris. Il Laboratorio delle Idee, the Laboratory of Ideas, is the section where to find this opening video by Andrea Canevaro. It also includes other contributions that have been edited for us by Maria D'Ambrosio, Professor of Pedagogy at the University of Naples, Suor Orsola Benincasa, Rossella Bessi, Professor of General and Social Pedagogy at the University of Urbino, Adriana Lorenzi, who does an extremely interesting work on creative writing and autobiography in the Bergamo prison, where she also edits a review entitled Diario aperto dalla prigione, Open Diary from Prison. Michele Gianni. Hello, Michele. Is a theatre author who has always participated in our conference. Hello, Michele. I can see you are in the countryside at the moment. Michele Gianni has lived through the tragic experience of COVID-19 and has written a beautiful book after this experience. In some ways, from my point of view, it also dispels a problem that we're all still experiencing, given how serious the situation is. It is a book that I recommend everyone to read. Michele has selected some passages that he read for us in the recording that he prepared and that is available in the reserved area. I would also like to thank the Marche region, which supports this project of theatre in prison at regional level that is being developed in all the 6 penitentiary institutions. There is a website where you can also see a link to the Coordinamento Regionale Teatro in Carcere Marche. La Violetta Company is a member of the latter, and in recent years it has been developing an interesting work on animated films in these institutes. The films recorded in the institutes are available for you to watch. The Pesaro prison, for example, hosted a very interesting project on the relationship between literature, theatre and sport, which was also at the center of the last conference, with a work that was presented at the Urbania Theatre and which is commented on in the video you will find in the reserved area. At this point, I would like to move on to the first of 2 events we will focus on this morning. I am referring to the film Captività, that is Captivity, by Bruno Oliviero on the participatory theatre of Mimmo Sorrentino. Let's start with a video presentation recorded by Valeria Ottolenghi, theatre critic and member of the National Association of Theatre Critics, which is also one of the partner bodies of our initiatives. Hello. This is a beautiful film by Bruno Oliviero. It not only tells about Mimmo Sorrentino's work in Vigevano with a group of high-security inmates, it also emotionally reveals the relationship between inside and outside, the very sense of doing theatre in prison. Just a few words before watching the video, only the first part of it because of conference busy schedule, but available in full. At the end, there is a short dialogue with Mimmo Sorrentino, who directly explains the value of participatory theatre and tells about the long journey of personal growth made by this group that is allowed to go out as needed and that performs its own show, having for the very first time the achievement of cultural goals as motivation. The prison is there, still, shown for several times in different seasons and hours of the day isolated from the city. Inside you can feel the excitement of this group of people who discover the pleasure of telling and understanding their own lives, mirroring each other, because the show, Captività, where imprisonment evokes other meanings, is constructed in such a way that each one tells the life experiences of the other in a complex chain of reflections. I saw it in Rome at the Palladium Theatre as part of an important edition of Destini Incrociati. Rome is only one of the many stages of the journey together with Turin and Milan. In Milan at the Statale invited by Nando Dalla Chiesa, at the Civica Scuola Paolo Grassi, where the inmates became the teacher guides for theatre activities in prison, and as far as Castrovillari, where, however, another show was presented, Benedetta, I saw it at the Elfo. Its context of freedom, though, implied that those who were outside couldn't help but thinking of their companions still in prison. Their words were like a letter addressed to them with the image, swimming in the sea. Captività was created from the stories of the inmates, but it was Mimmo who wrote the text. The reason lies in the wordplay we hear in the film. We need to let what is silenced emerge. There is also a publication, Theatre in High Security, Teatro in Alta Sicurezza, published by Titivillus. At the heart of the show is a question posed by the group, which appears to be turned on to the audience. What do you live for? Many themes are tackled, complex topics, enriching nuances, are treated with extreme sensitivity, childhood, parental relationships, legality. Among the issues that emerged was the question aroused by the students of Nando Dalla Chiesa about whether it is possible, by living in certain contexts of mafia and crime, to build a new life. In the film, you see the group that meets different audiences. The pride of the director of the prison of Vigevano, the accompanying penitentiary police officers, departures, arrivals, inconveniences, satisfactions, very intense applause everywhere, then the melancholy of the return. Waiting for them is a big square building, far from everything. But Sorrentino urges the group to think about the beautiful things, not simply as past experiences left behind, but as something to be experienced in the future. Enjoy the video. See you soon. Thank you, Valeria, for this introduction. You are going to be there with us again when Mimmo Sorrentino will speak, and then answer questions that can be sent to us in the chat. I remind everyone that we will dedicate 10 minutes to this dialogue with questions to Mimmo Sorrentino. You can write to me within the 10 minutes we will dedicate to this. Before listening to Mimmo Sorrentino contributing to this live meeting, let's see the first 15 minutes of the film, which will remain accessible to you in the reserved area until midnight today. So you can watch it in full if you wish. We can start with the film. No, it doesn't matter if you're out of tune. Why do you say you're out of tune? See, you sing it. If you calm down, you'll sing it right. Anyway, we can find a song for when we close the theater, Always on the Space. A beautiful song. Find something about this. There are songs. There are also in Italian. Don't worry, let's get to actually do the show. One thing at a time. Give me the ending here. Do you hear the moment when the music changes? You then pretend to paint her nails.
A godermi lo spettacolo più che era perché mi striva il recinto, non è permesso di uscire, soprattutto ai piedi del re che in cella fa freddo. L'albero lontano, ci sta tutto quasi fino a ieri era in prigione.
I was beautiful, naked, and pure. I gave proof of it to everyone after the wedding. My mother and his mother, while we closed ourselves in the bedroom, they were outside. They were waiting for my scream of pleasure. They were out there. Everyone was out there. And I was out of my mind, screaming my pleasure. Do like they are here. What do you remember? Just forget the words and the story. How does the story end? I don't even remember how the story ends. I'm stuck. There, you're telling a story that, in my opinion, is one of the most awful to tell. That is a mother who loses a child and is blamed for this loss. Isn't it? That is a terrible thing, clearly. That is the atrocious story that you do not keep in your head because it hurts. I imagine what it means for those who are mothers, those who are here. To some extent, they feel their son is far away. They feel responsible for him. To some extent, it is a very heavy mourning that you find yourselves renewing every day. When we are stuck, we're not stuck because the words are more difficult or because the story is more complicated, but because the story evokes something that we want to avoid. I got your letter from the prison where you're locked up. Here's mine, from the prison where I am locked up. Since I was 2 years old, you left me, my mother, my sister, to build another family. In all the years you've been in prison, I've only come to see you 5 times, and every time I came, I felt like I was seeing a stranger. All we had to do then was to explain how this morning's and this afternoon's show came about. It all started from an invitation we made to the director of the Vigevano prison in the context of the course on sociology and methods of education for legality. Have you already done this several times? 26, but in prison. You know we're in prison. Yes, of course I know. Is this the first time? This is the first time I'm out in 2 years. Never in 2 years? Never. You have to enjoy the whole day.
Quando sto ansioso che no, ci vuole sono la faccia carica. Da bambina rubai una lametta per farmi bella.
When I was a kid, I stole a razor blade to make myself pretty. My older sister took the razor blade and beat me up. Making myself beautiful is the nicest memory I have of myself as a child. When I grew up, I made myself more beautiful than I should have. My brother punched me on the lips in the disco. The lipstick got mixed up with the blood. And just like in the fairy tales, a prince who worked in the mines with my father intervened. He washed my mouth, dried it, and kissed me. Then he took me to his house. 2 weeks later, my mother came to fetch me. He burnt all my clothes to keep me there. I was naked, too naked for my mother to take me home. A son was born immediately, and he died immediately. His mother said his death was my fault. I knew it wasn't true, but he agreed with his mother and left me. Then Italy, the hotels, the prison. But even when I am locked up, I keep making myself beautiful and making my companions beautiful. Because wherever I am, I will live to make myself beautiful. And you? What do you live for? For what? I don't know how to read. I don't know how to write. As a child, nobody taught me. As a child, they taught me to work with death. And with death, I now work. I sell rigged paradises to those who want to rig life so as not to feel pain, so I don't feel the pain of my children. And I go shopping with you. I buy bread with you. This is life. Shopping and coming home slowly. Because our strength is failing us. To you, before then to me. I scream. I scream inside myself. Then I cry. Then I take the scissors And I cut my hair. And I ask whoever it is, whoever has custody of my body, to lay them like flowers in your hands, frozen, that they may be your company in death as they have been in life, my husband, Son of God. But that's not all there is to life. The youngest of my uncles was killed at the age of 19 during a robbery at a petrol station. And my mother, who brought him up like a son, went mad. She went mad to the point that she no longer recognizes her children. The 3 children are clinging to each other in the big bed, defended by Father Christmas, who is no longer a child, but a man who shouts, a man who cries, a man who begs his wife to become a mother and a wife and a mother again. But the mad mother attempts suicide without dying. Fortunately, there are medicines. Sleep, mother, sleep. It is up to me to help you. It is up to me. I have never been a child. It is up to me, since Father Christmas is in prison. It is up to me, even if helping you means being covered in your insults. You used to call me the perfect little girl, but I was only a child, mother. I was a little girl who, now that she's a mother, still needs some affection. We interrupt here this 15-minute excerpt from the film Captivity, which can be viewed in its entirety until midnight by accessing the reserved area of the Teatri delle diversità.it website. I am now happy to give the floor to Valeria Ottolenghi, who I see is online, and to Mimmo Sorrentino if he is online too. I am online. Very good, Mimmo. Well, then, Valeria, if you want to add a few words, then we will give the floor to Mimmo. First of all, hello, everyone. Hello, Mimmo. As you have seen, I tried to say as much as I could while reading, just to leave the floor to you for these few minutes. So the question is, what is participatory theatre? It is something that characterizes your poetics, and therefore, let's say, if you can provide us with an overall presentation of your way of proceeding, and then maybe a quick story of the group. I'll let you speak now, because then you'll also have to answer the questions in the chat. Thank you. Hello to everyone. I arrived a little late because I had some problems connecting. Participatory theatre, it is a technique prompted by sociology, from that part of sociology that focuses on participatory observation. In this context, the sociologist, anthropologist, not only takes a snapshot of the context he is studying, but he also learns its language, its rules, and above all, implements transformations that affect not only the group he's working with, but also himself. Instead of a sociologist, in my case, there is a theatre artist or playwright or director who lives for a long time within these contexts. And in some way, he develops transformations in people. In a sense, it shouldn't be confused with interactive theatre. Dramaturgy is not made with people participating in its construction, nor nor should it be confused with the community theatre. These are two different forms of social theatre. So, participatory theatre in some ways borrows techniques from anthropology and analysis. In order to have a criterion for the transformation of people, you must work in a systemic way. By systemic way, I mean using the systemic theories that have been developed by the school of Salvini Palazzoli. Just to give you an idea, then I will close on this concept. If you work in a prison, you cannot think of building transformations if you do not also work with the educational pedagogical operators and with the prison officers. Because this is the system you have to work on. If you work in a school, you can consider activating transformation in people, in institutions, but you cannot do it if you do not work with students, managers, teachers, and caretakers. This is, let's say, one of the criteria for which, as you have seen in the film, but whoever sees the film realizes this, when we go on tours, on our tours, we really do look like the Piedmont Holiday Group. We really are one. We are one group. Obviously, this doesn't happen thanks to the Holy Spirit. You have to work on it. You have to work on it with the right techniques. Because the difference in this systemic work is that while you use your theatrical knowledge with the actresses in prison, you don't make the prison officers act. So you clearly have to work with your ability to listen to the whole context. Well, I don't know if I managed to be clear, but for those who want to know more, there is a book I wrote in 2010. I don't know if there are still copies around, because it has been adopted by some universities, but its title is Teatro Partecipato, published by Titivillus. I did well, didn't I? Yes, very good as always. This summary on participatory theatre is also beautiful. Do you want to say something in particular about the group? Or perhaps the best thing is to take up something you said in the film and that I have already quoted in my presentation. This idea that the good things that give satisfaction are certainly encouraging, but they get to an end. You say there is always something to look forward to. Are there any new projects for this group? And if yes, what are they? Then we'll hear from you if there are any questions. I have no projects in prison in this period, basically since March. We are obviously at a standstill. As far as I'm concerned, I've worked for 5 years in higher security, therefore with women detained for organized crime and mafia, 'ndrangheta, camorra. I wrote a book. I made a film. I made shows that toured all over Italy. I gave lectures in universities, and with Paolo Grassi I brought students within the prison context. I would say that I have done enough. I feel a strong need to experiment in other contexts. So when I'll be back, I will almost certainly move to a medium security system. There are a few things I feel I should say at this point. All these women, or almost all of them, had very, very heavy surnames. Very, very heavy indeed. All those who are now out of prison moved north. They moved far from their places of origin. They have brought their children with them and are now working as factory workers or cleaners. I'm talking about women who have managed billions. So the first transformation has certainly taken place for them as individuals compared to the people you got to know in the video. Another thing that, in my opinion, is very important is that these women, and you saw the video, the first time you see them out was the first time they went out. High security prisoners can't go out. It is an extremely restricted system. Well, these women were let out because the magistrate have modified the terms of the permit with escort for necessity, and they have established that for these women, culture is as necessary as having bread, a shower, a bed, and everything else. And this is the first. It is the first time that the magistrate says culture is necessary. I think it is important to remember that. Another important thing. Have you seen Nando dalla Chiesa? I assume some of the participants are not Italian, so not everyone knows who he is. He is one of the most important victims of mafia. I see a question here, but I'll take it later. I can't do two things at once. His father was killed, a general of the Carabinieri. The producer of the film is a victim of Camorra. They killed his brother. So, given the context, I think it was very important to work with the victims, because if you work in prison only, that's not enough. You also have to worry about the victims who are out there. In the case of mafia, Camorra and 'Ndrangheta, it was important. For me, it was fundamental that Nando dalla Chiesa at a certain point told me, look, up to now we assisted to this kind of phenomenon. Either you are a collaborator of justice or you're not. Now in Vigevano we have discovered that there is another way. That there is totally another way, that there is another possibility. These women did not betray, they are not collaborators of justice. They don't make a personal journey that allows them to leave the mafia context. So, it seems to me that now, if I continued to work within this type of project, time would work against me. The research, the work done, in my opinion, should be taken and developed by others. I have to do something else. There was a question that I think is interesting because there are many people here, I guess, that work in prison. They maybe work with prison officers too, right? I don't know if I read it right. Well, I'll tell you, before I worked with women, I have worked with men in prison. On day one, I go in, and they make me wait 15 minutes. I sit there very patiently, waiting for these 15 minutes. The second time, they make me wait 30 minutes, and I still sit there very patiently, waiting my 30 minutes. The third time, they come down. I'm talking about prison officers. And one tells me, I'm sorry, Professor, but I cannot bring you the prisoners today. I hug him and say, come, let's have a coffee, thank you, because I don't have to work today. So, while doing this, I clarified the fact that I was not there to be Maria Teresa of Calcutta. I was working, and if you don't make me work, I can also be happy, because then it's not just like doing anything. I mean, I can do something else rather than be in the theater of a prison in my life. This left him in surprise because he thought he was upsetting me. Well, if you don't work, you're somehow damaged. But in that moment, I had the opportunity to work with him, to recognize myself as his equal, as a person working in prison, just doing a different thing. I disagree very often with prison officers. But obviously, it is fundamental to recognize the work they do. And certainly, I don't envy them. I hope I have answered that. There is another question from Vincenza about how you create the dramaturgy. It is about this idea of listening then taking the texts and somehow reworking them, as in the end the dramaturgy is yours. But I asked Vito if we still have a few minutes. They tell me 2 more minutes. Okay, then I think you should answer. Okay, I'll try to be as brief as possible. Dramaturgy starts with listening. It starts with listening. Listening can happen very directly, or it can come through exercises that you do during the workshops. What I am concerned with while writing is not what they say, but what they tell me without actually being aware of it, so they can reveal it to themselves. So this is the first step I take from a dramaturgical point of view. The second step is obviously the staging, which must be, let's say, consistent with the funds and resources you have available to make the show and with the actual skills to make it. Mimmo, I would also like to ask you a question. We have a nice contribution by Bruno Oliviero in the reserved area. He made the film with you, of course. Would you like to tell us a little about your relationship in the creative work that lasted 4 years? Yes. Well, in a participated theatre context, everyone who enters the space where you are working is involved. According to this criterion, whether it is a camera or it is a cleaner that comes in, everyone is involved in the work in the same way. So from this point of view, I didn't perceive any forcing. But what we immediately said to each other was that we wouldn't make a film about theatre shows, because theatre shows are better than films. I mean, none you've seen, don't get me wrong, but theatre is theatre. If I express myself through theatre and then take that stuff to the cinema in a film, well, theatre is more beautiful. The film must be something else. So, about the guiding lines, the procedures with which you arrive at the show, even that stuff, it has its own strength while you work. It can be debatable, but videos are not my favorite thing. I don't like them. They are ugly. And Bruno also agreed. What seemed important to us was that he made his own film. He found his own dramaturgy within the work. And this happens because the film is not a film about theatre, nor it is a film about the theatrical procedures adopted. The film is about people. In their first dialogue, they are arguing in a totally cameristic style. Neither of the two who say, we need music, we don't need music, has ever seen a play. They despise each other, they can't stand each other, they are arguing in a totally cameristic style. Then you start, little by little, to discover these women. The first time in the Statale, you can see it. They can't breathe. They can't make it. At the end of the show, they go to Rome and they have another kind of experiences until they arrive in Castrovillari. Then they go to the sea. And it becomes a story of transformation of people, of these particular women. This is the film. Theatre has nothing to do with it. But this was important to me. In fact, as you can see, I believe that the method of the film touches the work done as we worked on tons of taped material, kilometers of footage. Many interventions have been eliminated. But the story of the transformation of these women, in my opinion, has made the film, at least up to now, so much appreciated. Well, thank you, Mimmo. Thank you all. Thank you, Valeria. Thank you very much for this in-depth analysis of this work. See you soon. Thank you. We will now move on to the second event. It had been planned for the second evening of the conference and scheduled to take place on site with an audience. I'm referring to the performance It's Just a Game by the Teatro Metropopolare of Prato. Hello, Livia. Livia is here with us and will be talking with YOSUKE Taki, writer and director, but only after watching the video, which has been edited especially for our initiative, and it lasts 16 minutes.
Pensiamo di essere motivati da alti ideali, patriottismo, amore, verità, solidarietà. Ma in un mondo capitalistico, la sola cosa che conta è capitale.
Durante il periodo del lockdown ci siamo incontrati attraverso tutti i mezzi possibili, quindi piattaforma Zoom, messaggi vocali, mail, e abbiamo scritto molto, interrogandoci su temi, su grandi temi, come il capitalismo, la sovrappopolazione, cercando cioè rendendoci conto che tutti questi temi alla fine riconducevano a un vicolo cieco legato proprio al sistema capitalistico, ai soldi. E allora la domanda un po' tragicomica che ci poniamo all'interno dello spettacolo è quanto il sistema capitalista è entrato proprio dentro di noi come sistema e modo di pensare, e che cosa possiamo fare per andare contro questo muro.
Money. Soldi. Possiamo pensare di soldi per un momento? Ok. Chiudi gli occhi. Torniamo di chi siamo veramente. Hai presente di quell'immagine che fanno ogni sera in TV? Dai, quelle macchine che stampano i soldi. Quella macchina, ogni sera, non importa quale canale, il 4 canale della Rai o il 12 canale di Berlusconi, devono farci vedere quella macchina che stampa migliaia di banconote di 50 euro. E ecco, mi chiedo, perché dobbiamo guardare questa immagine ogni sera? Ragazzi, perché è stimolante! Sì, ognuno di noi sognare di avere quella macchina nel semi-interrato della casa e niente più problemi. Cazzo, vado giù stasera a stampare 40.000 euro per quelle ferie alla Maldives. Bingo, sono blindato. Ah? E poi i miei vicini adesso mi guardano con occhi nuovi. Ah? Quella Mercedes AMG, ah? In garage, ah? Esco vestito Armani, ah? Solo per fare la spesa, ah? Sono un missile diretto al top della catena alimentare!
C'è una frase di King che noi citiamo all'interno dello spettacolo, di Martin Luther King, che dice, che secondo me riassume con la sua semplicità straordinaria un po' quello che abbiamo tentato di contrapporre al sistema soldi, ed è cosa fai tu per gli altri, cosa stai facendo tu in questo momento per gli altri. E Questa frase ci ha molto colpito perché veramente con una semplicità assoluta ci riconduce tutti alle cose importanti. Si parla quindi di grandi temi e di anche un vissuto personale più piccolo. Abbiamo parlato anche di carcere, di detenzione, un'esperienza che io personalmente e i miei attori, i collaboratori di Teatro Metropopolare hanno vissuto, chi in prima persona, quindi da detenuto, chi lavorando al laboratorio di Metropopolare che da 12 anni opera all'interno della casa circondariale La Dogaia e anche in altri istituti penitenziari. Il carcere nel momento del lockdown è diventato anche metafora, no? È stata una parola che è stata pronunciata molto da tutti, tutti parlavano di prigione in quel periodo, di reclusione in quel periodo di lockdown, tuttavia quindi non comprendendo fino in fondo invece qual è il sistema carcere che abbiamo tra le mani in questo momento in questo paese. Ci siamo interrogati anche su questo, quindi carcere italiano, situazione proprio delle carceri, ci siamo interrogati sul perché anche quando si parla di carcere dobbiamo inevitabilmente ritornare a parlare di soldi. Come mai ci sono per il 90%, anzi forse molto di più, detenuti poveri? Come mai dentro il carcere troviamo soprattutto poveri, quindi persone che non hanno niente, poveri disperati?
Carcere. Ora devo informarti, immagino, che sono stato davvero in prigione. E non è qualcosa che ti piace pubblicizzare. Ma alle 11-12 la notte tendo a pensarci. Insegno in te il pensiero, quei 7 anni dentro. E quando i miei amici dicono, Robert, com'era dentro? La migliore risposta che ho potuto trovare è stata Jurassic Park. Si sbaglia se è mangiato vivo. Ma la cosa più strana di tutto in prigione era questo. Tutti dentro sono poveri. Yeah. Non ci sono ricchi in galera. Ogni tanto mettono un Harvey Weinstein o una Totorina, ma sono cigni nere nella statistica. Il 99% della gente in galera è al verde e disperata. E quando sono tutto solo, in fondo alla notte, in pigiama, penso al sistema giudiziario. Sai cosa intendo? Che è un po' strano che il sistema giudiziario stia filtrando tutti i ricchi fuori e mettendo solo i poveri dentro. Forse i ricchi non sono disperati, non lo so, ma in qualche modo cambia come tu guardi i detenuti. Se li consideri solo poveri, esseri umani, disperati, non nati cattivi, solo poveri, disperati, esseri umani, proprio come me e te. Yeah.
All'interno del lavoro e quindi la biografia dell'attore insieme alla biografia del regista, anche dei collaboratori, come in tutti i miei lavori, si mescolano insieme. Robert è americano e in scena si parla anche si parla del mondo, si parla anche dell'Italia, ma anche dell'America, fatti di cronaca americani, che sono fatti di cronaca rilevanti dal punto di vista internazionale, sono scivolati all'interno della drammaturgia, quindi man mano che scrivevamo succedevano delle cose che poi finivano dentro l'opera.
La fine di George Floyd, un povero, un padre di 46 anni che ha perso il lavoro durante la pandemia Covid, un disperato, pregiudicato, stata buttata a terra, ucciso dalla polizia con un ginocchio in gola, smesso di muoversi per 6 minuti. Stato soffocato per 8 minuti e mezzo e le sue parole morenti sono state "Please, I can't breathe". Ti prego, non riesco a respirare. Ma ci vogliono solo 16 settimane di addestramento per diventare un poliziotto in America. Ci vogliono 32 settimane per qualificarsi come un barbiere.
Dentro lo spettacolo ci sono citazioni, riferimenti a tanti autori, non solo di teatro, ci sono appunto Martin Luther King, ci sono John Lennon, si cita Giulio Regeni, si citano appunto, come dicevo, fatti di cronaca come la morte di Floyd o il Papa che celebra messa in una San Pietro desolata, in un deserto, come fosse uno sciamano che invoca la pioggia. C'è Frank Sinatra con il suo That's Life che ci aiuta, insomma, attraverso anche quello che è la biografia di Robert, a parlare della vita. Diciamo a un certo punto che in Inghilterra si usa dire life is a bitch and then you die, la vita è una stronza e poi si muore, quindi scherziamo sopra questo gioco che è la vita. Si parla di sopravvivenza e allora la sopravvivenza può essere ricondotta soltanto ai soldi, così come stiamo facendo ormai da tempo immemore. È una domanda che poniamo al pubblico, secondo noi no, evidentemente, e basta.
Io ho letto la Bibbia, dalla prima pagina fino all'ultima, in carcere. E c'era un tempo in cui per me la musica era il Messia di Handel. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. E poi ho iniziato a immaginare che, come John Lennon, non ci fosse il paradiso. Nessun inferno sotto di noi, sopra di noi, solo un cielo blu. Vai, vai fuori e fai un suono gioioso. Non possiamo farci niente altro. Comunque, ma ho avuto un scomodo sensazione quando ho visto il Papa solo nella piazza di San Pietro e mi viene in mente un shaman che balla per avere più pioggia. Forse Dio è proprio come uno di noi, creato a nostra immagine. Adolf Hitler, George Bush, Osama Bin Laden, tutti dicevano che Dio era da loro parte, ma qualcuno di loro ha torto. Comunque, sembra che non ci sia un significato universale alla nostra vita. Niente a parte la sopravvivenza e dunque i soldi. Ma non è una vita se abbiamo solo la sopravvivenza. Amore. This is a big one. Qual è la musica per te che suona quando quella pietra rompe la limpida superficie dell'amore? Io sento questo. Romeo e Giulietta, la scena finale. Le due famiglie, Capuletti, Montecchi, Romeo e Giulietta a terra, morti. Entra il principe di Verona sopra il suo cavallo e davanti la triste folle dice: il sole per il dolore non mostra il suo capo. Dove sono questi nemici? Siamo soli, esseri umani, perfetti. We are all punished. For never was there a tale of woe greater than this. The love of Juliet for her Romeo.
Tutti noi pensiamo.
Ecco, si è interrotto bruscamente, forse c'era
It stopped
ancora qualcosa
abruptly.
che
There
veniva
was probably something being
detto, magari
said.
recupera
Maybe
Livia.
Livia will mention it
Intervento.
in her speech.
Hai
No, no, it was over. It was over. It was starting again.
Grazie, Livia.
Very good. Thank you, Livia.
Complimenti. Complimenti.
Congratulations on this work.
Molto replicato.
We hope to see it performed again in Italy and elsewhere. Really good work.
Cederei subito.
I would now like to give the floor immediately to YOSUKE Taki,
Tra l'altro,
who is also somehow linked to Livia Gionfrida's work, thanks to a shared passion for Samuel Beckett. I'd like to remind everyone that YOSUKE Taki is the author of our Invisible Prison, Prigionie Invisibili, and that he has followed the International Prison Theatre Festival, Destini Incrociati, for years. I will leave the floor to him to get straight to the heart of the matter. I'd like to remind all the people online, and of course welcome the latest arrivals, that you can ask questions immediately after this first 15-minute dialogue. We will keep track of the questions in the chat, so you may still ask them during the 15 minutes. Please, YOSUKE. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Livia, Robert, and everyone at the Teatro Metropopolare. I was supposed to... Do you hear me? Yes. YOSUKE, by the way, I wanted to add that Robert is also online. Yes, I see him. Hi, Robert. So I don't know if it will be possible to hear a few words from you too. I'd be pleased. So I was supposed to be in Prato last week to attend their rehearsal and have a relaxed and in-depth discussion. But due to the whole COVID situation, I stayed in Rome. Nonetheless, I managed to watch the video beforehand, and I had the chance to have an exchange with Livia. First of all, with regard to the theme of this conference, pedagogy and theatre, perhaps this is a type of pedagogy that works not only within prisons, but for all of us in today's world. Especially when I heard the first question she asked, that is, how much the capitalist system has become part of us, in particular as a way of thinking. Well, it is exactly the question that I recently have been asking myself quite often, especially because, you know, that Japan is perhaps one of the most capitalist countries, where there is a frightening advanced capitalism, especially in urban areas, which has transformed humanity and society in a way that was foreign to us 75 years ago. After the war, there has been a systematic transformation, and we will maybe talk about that later. But I would like now to ask Livia and maybe Robert question. You have worked in prisons for years, first on Shakespeare, then on Williams, and then on two very important works by Beckett in a project we shared. How did you feel in this recent transition from Beckett to capitalism? Since I know you, I see this transition is very consistent and natural, but I would like you to explain in your own words how this new process has begun. So, first of all, thank you for this invitation. I'm very happy to see so many companions on this journey we share, even if I see you only through the screen. It is a disappointment from a certain point of view, because I would have been very happy to see you in person, but let's get the best out of this system. I am equally happy. Yes, both Robert and Giulia from Metropopolare are here with me. We're always in a group. Okay, good. We've had a technical incident here in the studio, but I'm pleased that everything is still online and that you have gone ahead. We had a blackout. Yes, we heard. I hope that the recording will still be available in full. At least the first part. I see the system is recording, so I hope that we will eventually be able to recover everything. I'm sorry, there was a great deal of anxiety here, but we have been working hard to restore our line. So you have gone ahead regularly, and I'm pleased. If you have completed your speech, we can proceed to the next part. I am really sorry. I didn't hear what Livia and Robert said from a certain moment onwards. I apologize to them, and I will listen to the recording of what was said. Yesterday, Livia, you were outside. We got in touch while you were accompanying the protest of the theatre entertainment operators in this very delicate moment. It is important to remember the difficult situation of this category of all operators and artists, for whom this phase is characterized by uncertainty and insecurity. Obviously, the spirit that defines our initiatives is highly positive and proactive. Even a critical stance expressed by our theatre work is always, anyways, constructive. We wouldn't have otherwise gone to work in prison as we are doing. So I would like to thank Livia and Robert again. So we continue with our meeting and we move on to an international contribution, which is also connected to the conference held last year. At the end of the conference, the Coordinamento Regionale Teatro in Carcere Marche had the opportunity to present an experiment that we have also opened to national and international contexts. It was a training seminar directed by Jean Trunston. She was awarded the International Gramsci Prize 2 years ago in 2018. Last year, she participated in our conference and created a training seminar in the prison of Pesaro, aimed at theatre operators, but also prison operators, and with the participation of inmates who were following the theatre workshops in prison. Jean Trunston was the first director in the United States to work in a women's prison. So hers is a historical experience. It was documented in a beautiful book, Shakespeare Behind Bars, which inspired many US theatre operators. Jean curated a training seminar for us on theatre and literature that change lives, with the title Changing Lives. The resulting documentation has been curated by Maria Celeste Italiani, who has been following our work for years in the National Coordination of Theatre in Prison. We can now start with the video. In the meantime, we'll have to take care of a technical issue because of the blackout. I'd like to invite Michalis Straitzis to speak immediately after watching the video. Michalis is in fact organizing in Venice a new step in the collaboration with Jean. He will then tell us about it directly and also tell us why in Venice. Among other things, Michalis is the curator of the theatre workshop in the Women's Penitentiary of Giudecca. After the video, you will see a contribution that came to us as a surprise. We received a video from Jean from the United States. Yesterday, she sent it after she saw a preview of the film that we are sharing with you today and that you can find in the reserved area in two different versions, an Italian version and an English one. We subtitled it entirely, translating the English parts into Italian and the Italian parts into English, because we want to share it with an international audience. I would also like to take this opportunity to say hello to some of the international guests who are here, who have signed up from Portugal, from Spain, and also from the United States. Ronald Jenkins should be connected with us. A university lecturer at the University of Massachusetts.
iniziamo con il video Changing.
Let's now start with the video, Changing Lives.
I want to explain a little bit how the process that we're going to do today. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about changing lives through literature. Then we're going to have an experience together. My name is Jean Traunstein. I began working in prison in 1987, and I worked inside prison for 10 years. I did 8 plays with women and started writing books about it. And then I found out about changing lives through literature in 1992, and I began doing that program. I did it for over 25 years, 26 years, with women on probation. And now I'm piloting it in Massachusetts with men inside a prison. So the idea behind it is the democratic classroom. No ideas are more important than any other ideas. Everybody changed through this. It wasn't just that the probationers or the prisoners changed. We could talk about literature without talking about themselves. The other main concept beside the democratic classroom is the team concept. 3 different kinds of people who are involved in different roles in terms of the program. The first one is the judge, and the judge is the person who represents authority, who represents, in a sense, the power in the classroom, but also in a sense the person who truly is there transformatively to listen to the voices of those that they are given the opportunity to take changing lives. The second is the probation officer. The probation officer is the one who creates the class, decides who will be in it, decides what fees may be waived, what they can get for their participation, and also deals with any kind of behavioral issues that come up. The third is the facilitator. And the facilitator can be a college professor, most often someone who has a literature background, someone who can understand how literature helps people transform. So the power of the literature, the character, to get inside you is part of the transformation. And it doesn't matter if you're a prisoner, a probationer, a judge, a teacher. That power is the same for everyone. So what I learned from my theater background is the same thing that happens in this group, is that the text becomes the teacher. The experience in the classroom of talking and sharing allows a deeper confidence that could be manifest in a theatrical sense in many different kinds of situations in reality. We're going to read a story. In this case, Walter's going to read it out loud to you in Italian.
La ragazza con la treccia ha la vita esile, la ragazza che immaginate, tanto che in collegio la chiamavano formica. Da quando era arrivata a Roma aveva fatto una vita disordinata, piena di sorprese e rivelazioni. Era uscita con un certo Vaccarella, un tipo cupo dagli occhiali dorati e i vestiti blu. Poteva essere Vaccarella il padre di quel bambino, che certamente sarebbe stato triste come lui. Il pericolo di una gravidanza non voluta rimaneva sospeso sulle teste delle ragazze come una grazia divina che doveva prenderti a sorpresa.
So the question is, just something that struck you about this story, okay?
Mi ha colpito la leggerezza con cui racconta anche questi personaggi.
Il fatto che lei si renda conto che il professor Gaetani assomiglia a suo padre.
For me, what surprised me was how normal for her it was to go and get an abortion or to go and find someone to... Like, it seemed very normal that she was treated that way.
A me mi ha colpito che a 15 anni lei ha avuto una gravidanza e non so come avrà fatto a studiare.
A me mi ha colpito prima di tutto la leggerezza e l'infanzia di questa adolescente, l'ingenuità, che addirittura pensava che potesse restare incinta con un bacio. E poi alla fine mi ha colpito anche il fatto della ricerca del padre. Però io non so se era perché volesse tanto bene al padre oppure se lo odiasse. Questa ricerca del padre non...
Io mi può identificare un po' più perché sono anche giovane e questa situazione di prendere cose anche da giovane.
Mi viene più da ragionare entrare in relazione a un personaggio del genere e quindi vedere il mi piace o meno poi dopo non esiste più perché ti misura con i tuoi limiti.
Sometimes in a group it's hard for people to say what they honestly think. So I never tell them my opinion. There are a lot of profound effects from this program. First of all, there have been studies, scientific studies, that have shown that as a result of doing Changing Lives, the arrest rate is lower with that population after they complete the program than those who do not complete the program. And not just the arrest rate, but also the kinds of crimes that are committed are definitely impacted. One of the results that was shown with the women's program, which I thought was interesting, is that there were fewer crimes against person. There may be some crime, but fewer crimes against person. Also importantly, some of the non-scientific studies, but the anecdotal studies have shown that people read more to their children, there is better communication in relationships, people are able to talk more easily about ideas, they feel more supported, and there is a deeper sense of self-respect that evolves from the ability to both listen and talk in this classroom setting.
Afferrò i polsi della gente, gli tirò le braccia dietro la schiena e gli bloccò le mani con un paio di manette.
The first question again is something that you took away from this story.
Sono rimasto, colpito da questo giocare con il tempo.
Viene fuori la solitudine di quest'uomo, la sua sofferenza, cioè in maniera anche un po' così quasi canzonatoria si descrive un uomo sprezzante, ironico, quasi sopra le righe, in realtà così sofferente da aver anestetizzato tutte le sue emozioni.
Mi resa conto che rispetto all'inizio in cui il personaggio è quasi odioso, poi uno finisce quasi per provare dell'empatia.
Al di là dell'errore è il contenuto forse importante per lui, e cioè di trovarsi bene nell'interbase, nella posizione poi che è del critico.
Sono state situazioni molto vissute in realtà da parte di questo Anders e che sono delle spine, diciamo, per cui fanno male, le tiene un po' nell'inconscio, diciamo, un po' contenuto.
Mi ha colpito, oltre all'ironia di Andersen, il fatto che lui alla fine non si ricordasse più né della moglie né della figlia né di nessuno, ma di un campo di baseball con l'erba gialla e con tutti i contorni del baseball.
È un metodo che ti lascia aperto a tutte le soluzioni e alla propria immaginazione. È un metodo condiviso che mi piace molto.
Una cosa per me che unire, due cose molto belle e importanti, arte e il lavoro sociale.
Sono rimasta molto impressionata e fascinata del processo e della signora Jean, che è venuta dagli Stati Uniti per presentare e spiegare come funziona questo tipo di programma. Secondo me è un programma con tanto valore che può trasformare le persone, non solo quelli che sono dentro le istituzioni, ma anche quelli che stanno facendo il programma, tipo i giudici o altre persone che vengono da fuori, diciamo. Perché è vero che la letteratura ci porta in un altro mondo, non solo con l'immaginazione, ma anche nella forma di comunicazione e connessione tra le persone.
Ecco, allora abbiamo visto questo filmato.
Okay,
Io
now
vorrei
that we have
subito la
watched this
registrazione
first video,
pervenuta
I would
da
immediately share the
questa
recording
editoria
received from
commento
Jean.
relazione
She sent it to us yesterday as a comment
abbiamo
after
saputo
viewing the film on the work
notizie
and as a
importanti
greeting to all of us with some important current news from the United States. Jean was translated simultaneously by Eleonora Ricci.
Hi, this is Jean Trounstein coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts. And first of all, I'm smiling because I'm so happy to have seen the amazing video that Vito and company made regarding the Changing Lives program last year. And I was thrilled by it. It was such a good quality video and touched me. The only thing that bothered me is I wasn't smiling. So now I'm smiling for you so you can really see a little bit of who I am. I'm in my kitchen in the United States, like, you know, everybody else is inside. So let me reflect a little bit on my experience last year, first of all. It was probably life-changing for me to come to Italy and be, particularly with Walter, Valeria, and Vito, and frankly, everybody else that I met in Italy who added to my trip. There were so many people who I was just blown away by. I took a lot of pictures. I took a lot of images home with me, and I think I feel connected to Italy in a way that I don't feel connected to most countries. The people, the love, the art. And the conference itself was stunning. I learned a lot about theater in prisons, and I observed a lot of people's passion for what they're doing, which just blew me away. I made a new friend, Rhoda, who is a puppeteer, and we've been corresponding, checking in on each other during COVID. And I have to say, it's been a horrible time here. I mean, really horrible. I was going to find some information for you just so I could give you some information about what's going on in prisons in the United States during COVID. You know, because we have so many states, things are a little different in each state across the United States. But as of October 20th, 152,000, almost 153,000 people in prison had tested positive for COVID. And that is probably, percentage-wise, at least in Massachusetts, it's probably at least 3 times what people have tested for in the regular population. I'm just guesstimating, but I will say that in some states, of course, it's worse than others, but we have outbreaks. And all of a sudden, for example, yesterday in Massachusetts where I live, there were 2 people at one prison that had it and guards. And I think we have at least in Massachusetts now, out of a population of jail and prisons, somewhere around the 13,000 number of jails and prisons, we have at least 700 people who've contracted COVID, and I would say probably 400 guards. And they continue to bring in COVID. So we are not allowed to work inside right now, which is quite terrible in terms of the art. I do my virtual classes at Middlesex Community College at home, and I yearn for the time, and as I'm sure you all do, when we can go back inside. I've been writing articles. You can go on my website, jeantrounstein.com, and see links to my articles. I'll say it again, JeanTrounstine.com. Maybe Vito could spread that around. And I do have a lot of articles about what's going on inside. In terms of changing lives, in terms of my passion, at the moment, I've been just reading books and watching plays. Every Saturday night I watch a play somewhere that was filmed and pretend in some sense I'm going to theater. I don't know if others of you are doing that too. But let me go back to Italy, because literally and mentally, I hope your conference is wonderful. I probably will come on the Zoom on Saturday, even though I don't speak Italian, because I want to be there. But again, thanks so much for, getting the Gramsci Award and making such incredible new connections and feeling like that I will come back and do work with people in Italy, continue to connect, continue to spread the word about art inside and how important it is to change people's lives. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this time. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks to Jean, who has tried to connect with us. I don't know if she succeeded, but this contribution was extremely valuable for us, as it was very informative. I would like to thank Vincenza Di Vita, who pointed out Jean Transtein's reference website in the chat. I'd now leave the floor to Michalis Stratsis, that will share with us the connections built since last year's conference. Michalis will also tell us about the hope, the wish to invite Jean Transtein to Venice. Michalis. Yes, thank you, Vito. First of all, I wanted to greet all the participants of this conference and thank them for the interesting contributions that have been made up to now. Jean and I met last year at the Theatres of Diversities conference. We participated with a show organized with the students of the University Theatre Center of Ferrara, with the participation of a former female prisoner. We also organized a meeting about theatre in prison. Myself, together with Luminita Georgisor, former inmate of the female prison of Giudecca. That is the context in which a beautiful friendship has begun, a relationship of complicity with Jean that led us to the planning, programming, and, in the end, almost actualization of the project last March. Her participation was planned in Venice, both in the men's and women's prison, together with Walter Valeri and in collaboration with the Ca' Foscari University of Venice and the University Theatre Center of Ferrara. Unfortunately, the recent events have made it impossible. We have not been able to carry out our project with Jean and Walter in Venice, but we are organizing it for next March, if that is possible, or a little later. It depends on how the situation evolves with the pandemic crisis. I spoke to Jean yesterday, and we are working on this. The initiative will be organized as part of the Passi Sospesi project, Suspended Steps, which I run in the prisons of Venice, in the women's prison of Giudecca, and in the Santa Maria Maggiore men's prison, with the collaboration of Patrizia Ninu. The project has been running since 2006, and in all these years we have tried to create a relationship that could involve the social fabric of the city, involving the whole city, also at different levels. We have a collaboration with the Teatro Stabile del Veneto and the Accademia Teatrale Veneta. So every now and then the students from the Accademia Teatrale Veneta come to the performances in prison. This initiative we organized with Jean also included their presence, and we hope to have them there next year. The Ca' Foscari University and the University Theatre Center of Ferrara are involved in a series of activities and initiatives that we organize inside and outside of the prison. This context led us to consider organizing an edition of the Destini Incrociati event in Venice in 2022. We are already working on this, and we hope to be able to proceed in the best possible way in order to be ready for 2022. The current situation is making everything more difficult, but we are going ahead with the planning of this event. I must say that in Venice we have been so fortunate as to work in recent months too. We were able to work within 2 prisons, one for men and one for women in July. We were able to set up and perform a show on a very interesting theme. We focused on parenthood and the relationship between father and son for men. Now we are working on the same theme in the women's prison, that is the relationship between mother and daughter, with the hope of being able to finalize it by the end of November if things go well. Our ambition is that of comparing these two works, so tackling the theme of parenthood from both the male and the female perspective. That would be our greatest desire. Thank you, Michalis. We will go back to the topic of parenting with Grazia Isoardi. It is the topic of the book, Bosco Buonanotte, that you can also find among the books presented at this conference. Jean referred to Roda, a puppeteer, in her commentary. Roda Lopez, together with Remo Di Filippo, is conducting a very interesting project on puppets within the prison of Ascoli Piceno. In the reserved area, you will also find a small documentation, a story of this experience. I see on the screen Dijao Patrizio from Brazil. Hello, Dijao. I am very happy to see you again. Our international audience is expanding. I wish also to greet Rida Vengorobius from Portugal. She sent us some messages earlier on, sharing her desire to get in touch. Thank you, Rita. We can now mention the website that we have set up, www.theaterinprison.org, which is the reference site for the international network of theatre in prison that identified as its headquarters this very conference last year. We will all get in touch with each other. I have seen people from Spain among the registered members with whom we will certainly build more in-depth relationships. Now, let us keep the focus on the international context to publicly announce the winner of the International Gramsci Prize for Theatre in Prison. The prize was established by our review, and this year's is its 5th edition. In the previous editions, the prize was awarded to Zeina Dakash from Lebanon. It was also awarded to the colleague from Santiago, from Chile. Perhaps Juan Pablo Santi could tell us something, maybe also give us a few updates on the very interesting work she's developing. I briefly give the floor to Juan Pablo Santi. Yes, good morning and thank you, Vito. Jacqueline Rumode from Chile sends her greetings. At the moment, she's working online, in online contexts, and also on the radio. She is presenting a virtual exhibition of the various shows developed with their company, Quartre. She's also celebrating this pivotal moment and the movement that the whole country of Chile has created to change the national constitution connected to the Pinochet period. It is a great moment for Latin America and for all of us. In this difficult and dark moment, this is very good news. A greeting to all. Thank you. Thank you, Juan Pablo. I am now going to proceed with a quick reminder of the names, but you can find the reasons for the awards given in previous years on the International Network's website, www.theaterinprison.org. We have Larry White, is the following on the list of the award winners. He is an African-American ex-convict. He is the author of a beautiful handbook that includes the theatrical experience during his many years in prison. He has been convicted for a long time and shared with us his testimonial on how theatre helped him to better resist to the deprivation of personal freedom. Then we had Jean Trunston in 2018, and in 2019, that is last year, Michelina Cappato Sartore, who conducted a really important and at the moment interrupted significant project in the Bollate prison in Milan. Michelina is not with us today, but I wanted to mention her because she has had a very important role also within our network of operators. We're now going to announce the winner of the 5th edition of the Gramsci Prize, whose jury includes Giulio Baffi, the president of the National Association of Theatre Critics, Valeria Ottolenghi, who is here with us today, Mariano Dolci, who is here with us today too, and Alejandro Finzi, Argentinian playwright who lives in Luján in Argentine Patagonia. He has been our guest for 2 editions of the conference, and he also gave a very important dramaturgical input for a work that has been produced in the Pesaro prison by the Lo Spacco Theatre Company. So I am going to read the motivation, the reason of the prize. Every one of you will know in advance, then we will issue a press release today. I would like to remind you that the award is promoted by the European review Catarsi, Teatri, delle, diversità in collaboration with the Association Casa Natale Gramsci of Ales and with the National Association of Theatre Critics and the International Network for Theatre in Prison. The International Gramsci Prize for Theatre in Prison 2020 5th edition goes to Zishan Ugurlu. She's a Turkish director living in New York. Now I read the motivation. Zishan Ugurlu has worked extensively, both in New York and abroad as a theatre artist since 1995. She is a resident actress and director at La Mama Theatre and member of the Gray Jones Repertory Company. She has performed with her group in numerous international theatre productions, including Panorama, directed by the Italian company Motus. She performed as Carmen in Robert Woodruff's award-winning Godard, Distant and Right. She performed in Draupadi, Oedipus Rex and Eunice under the direction of Ellen Stewart. Other solo performances include Dario Fo's La Bibbia dei Contadini, Peasant's Bible, and José Watanabe's Antigone. She also participated in some films, including The Letter, presented at the Cannes Film Festival, and in Dog Race. She recently directed Fragments, Lists and Lacunae, written by Alexandra Chasin with the philosopher Judith Butler. As a director, she also worked on several monologues presented at the United Solo Festival in New York. She's the artistic director and founder of Actors Without Borders, ITNI. It is a theatre company committed to presenting to the American public well-known and appreciated national and international playwrights that are rarely produced. She graduated at Columbia University and holds a PhD. She currently teaches at Eugene Lang College and at the New School for Liberal Arts as an associate professor. Since 2008, she has developed several theater training experiences in American penitentiaries, involved their students on a regular basis, and living a close and intimate experience with the phenomenon of mass incarceration in America. From Arthur Kill Correctional Facility in Staten Island to the maximum security prison of Sing Sing in Ossing, New York, she introduced workshops at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan as well. She specialized in research programs such as creating a solo performance or introdirection, with unprecedented experiments in the teaching of directing. The latter gave many people the opportunity to tell their stories in an intimate environment through the acceptance of vulnerability, with detailed analysis of human behavior and the nature of the choice process. Her recent performance from Tennessee Williams' Not About Nightingales was highly significant. It involved former inmates and students at Lang College and aimed at raising awareness and critical thinking on the problem of mass incarceration and its relationship with racial justice. Here it is, our best congratulations to Zishan Ugurlu. We see people applauding. Zishan really deserved this great applause, and I believe this award is also very much in line with the work. Is it correct, Livia? The work by Robert that was presented earlier. This makes me really happy. What can I say? We tried to reach out to Zishan last night. She still doesn't know about this award. We will continue to reach out to her. I have learned from the colleagues in the Motors Company. Motors Company is the company that currently directs the Festival of Sant'Arcangelo and for which she performed in the show Panorama. So the colleagues from Motors tell me that she's currently in Turkey. So we will try to reach out to her again later today and then announce the award with a press release. Yesterday we heard the news from Turkey. Obviously, we are all concerned about the earthquake there. So again, congratulations to Zishan, obviously with the hope of having her with us in Italy for our next international conference, promoted by the review Catarsi, Teatri, delle, diversità. Let's move now on to the last part of our morning meeting, and let's talk about the National Coordination for Theatre in Prison, which celebrates its 10th anniversary on the 15th of January, on next 15th of January. I will gradually give the floor to the people who are part of the National Coordination's planning group. The only member that is not with us today is Valentina Venturini. She's a theatre lecturer at the University of Roma Tre in Rome. And today she was professionally engaged in academic activities and therefore she could not make herself available last second. But all the other members are here. If you are online, I would immediately give the floor to Gianfranco Pedulla, who is one of the founders of the coordination itself. 10 years ago is when the national coordination has been founded in Urbania. Yes, Vito, I am online. You should allow my webcam, probably. So I'll ask Gloria to do it. So maybe it's you, Gianfranco, you have to enable the video so you can look for the video icon. Here it is. Before it was locked, now I can share it. Great. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me well? Thank you. Vito asked me to say a few words about the meaning of our national coordination, and it came to me a bit as a surprise. Maybe as a senior member, I don't know, but I've been happy to work on it. I've written a short page. It's short because I think it is the right thing to do considering we are video conferencing. I thank you for your attention and Vito for the invitation. This is a wordplay in Italian. It seems to me that the importance of our experience, perhaps unique at an international level, I don't know, but certainly one of the few, lies in the fact that we have succeeded, and we are succeeding in these 10 years in creating a collective process. It seems to me that this is a fundamental value and a state without rhetoric. In an era of solitude, selfishness, narcissism, etc., it seems to me that working in a communitarian collective way, working in full respect of the diversity of the role of the teacher, of the theatre critic, of the creator, the pedagogue in prison, is the best way to achieve this. The theme of freedom of expression, of creation, is connected with a network, with the freedom to be together, to talk to each other. This has a really great value. Unfortunately, it's somewhat rare in this era, and I want to highlight this again. I'd say also guided by the reflections made earlier about Gramsci. Gramsci was the first to talk about the idea of the collective intellectual and artist. So I find this is very important because it is really the framework that allows us to just consider the deepest meaning of what it means to go to difficult places within enclosed social context, just like the prison one. There we bring the light of theatre, the power of culture, of self-education, of care. So training through scenic arts, therefore theatre, music and other arts. I'm pleased to mention that the Tuscany region has invested money on activities organized to bring artistry in prison, where the artistry of the company, of the actor or actress is linked to a social mission. This is not a small thing because things have to go together. Theatre has always lived on commissions, deadlines, so I mean that freedom is not lost where this civil commitment is kept. Allow me to say that we're talking about a political commitment too, because these places are the most desperate on earth. It is about minorities, the minority places of the polis. It is very terrible to hear what is happening in the United States, in Italy. The pandemic issue is still not worrying in prisons, but what we're hearing before is terrible. It seems to me that our coordination through the events, the meetings, the patient work of Vito and of all of us has built this dimension and has offered important cultural opportunities for the exchange of information and knowledge. This is an important value. So we've got this important role. After all, theatre, the best European theatre, has always had a great political function in this sense of polis and of the rights and values of participation and, let me say, democratic citizenship. Democratic is a word that is being lost, and this is terrible. It was one of the most important words that we heard when we were training, and this should be reaffirmed also at an international level. In Italian prisons, we had and the national coordination was just obviously only a driving force, a catalyst of the whole story. But obviously, we saw different important projects where we saw, for example, Beckett in a connection with Brecht. We saw choral theatre. We saw live music in connection with body movements, various art, the comic and dramatic improvisation of inmate actors that were guided by our fellow artists. I would say that a sort of a modern theatre was born in Italy, which is very much influenced by ancient theatre in its primary social function. Now, all these are key elements, in my opinion. The president gave us just 5 minutes to speak, and he was right. One can say sincere, brief, and concise things in 5 minutes, and I agree with that. But I want to say that I'm very passionate about the concepts just mentioned, and I am obviously open to interaction and discussion with regard to the pandemic. This is obviously a very delicate moment for everyone. Our activity is at risk. There's no doubt. And this is true for Italy and for Europe. So we must be strong, we must reinvent it. We must also resist the ethical crisis, the motivational crisis that this creates for us, having interrupted many projects, workshops. I'm not up to date as far as Italy is concerned, not even in Tuscany, because everything is very fragmented. But I would be pleased to tell you that we managed to reopen in the Livorno area, in the Livorno prison of Gorgona. We, together with a company, Teatro Popolare d'Arte, went on stage in Gorgona with a work that we liked a lot. We had to force our schedule. And we went on stage this summer, and it was really something liberating. You know, when a gate is closing and you just manage to walk through it? Against all my colleagues, I said, we're going on stage. But we're not ready. We're going on stage, I said. Our methods, maybe the actualization timing, the maturation timing of the work, this process in theatre, as you know, may never end. It could last for years, months. So I don't know how much time we have, but I think being on stage has left an important mark. We would have told a better story at the Destini Incrociati in Rome instead of having a video, but I just wanted to share our testimonial that something has somehow been saved. Not everything has been closed. So we are suffering, but I just wanted to share a positive experience. We made it, at least in this small but important summer experience. So with this optimistic perspective, I would like to close my small contribution. Thank you. Thank you, Gianfranco. I invite Ivana Conte now to take the floor. I see that the line is restored. So Ivana is here with us as a representative of the experience of the association, the National Association Agita, that within the National Coordination of Theatre in Prison is developing a very interesting training work. I leave the floor to you, Ivana. You have to switch on the microphone, I think. Yes. Yes. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you fine. So good morning to you all, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at this conference. I'd like to start mentioning two issues I believe are of the greatest importance. The first is, as Vito pointed out in the introduction, is a very strong and necessary connection between the artistic, pedagogical and ethical concepts that inspire this conference, but also inspire all the work of the project Destini Incrociati. This strong connection between the educational and artistic aspects has been the foundation of our research in recent years and is also what I believe to be the very strong glue that somehow keeps our group together. Earlier, Gianfranco mentioned the importance of connection and the bond that the group has rooted in the profound motivation that guides it. By group, I mean not only the artistic direction of the Destini Incrociati project, but also the many collaboration that the project has created and started over the years. Now, if the ethical and aesthetic dimensions do not go hand in hand, we lose the fundamental objective that is ours. That is to hold together the profound and important value of working in the field of social theatre and prison theatre. In particular, there is another very important aspect to this, which I think was also highlighted by Gianfranco, namely the fact that the great theme of democracy and citizenship must always be kept as the cornerstone of our work and research. Of course, putting together so many different members at a national and local level, especially in this very complex phase of the pandemic, can be possible only if we, both internally and around us, we hold on to a dimension of the democratic process that it implies. In order for this value to be fully appreciated and underlined, it is very important to always keep in mind that our work has a recipient. And this is what we have been trying to do with Agita for a long time. Agita is also a training agency and addresses the school world. Keeping this strong connection together means never forgetting that our work is addressed to someone. Our recipients are first and foremost prisoners and detainees, citizens, young people, students, teachers, and theatre operators. All these people have made the history of the national coordination and are still making the history of our work. They are the natural recipients of the artistic process, and I believe that this is very important to bear in mind, because all the workshops that we have set up over the years to support the spread, the dissemination of the work that artists do with great patience and daily effort inside prisons is based on this belief. We are the privileged recipients of this great experience. We can go into prison and see theatre being made there, see theatre being made by prisoners in the theatre, in theatrical venues, or in venues which are not designed for theatre in particular, but that are very important all the same. As such, we are sharing one of the founding moments of the democratic process and of a strong relationship between citizens. The process of inclusion, which for us is fundamental, cannot be a single process. It must bring together all the subjects of the relationship, including the audience, of course, and especially young people and students. And here I would like to refer briefly to an experience I will quickly describe, because I know I have a little more than a minute left, and it is this. We have done a great job of connecting students, high school students in particular, with young people who are temporarily in juvenile detention centers. The connection between these two worlds of free and temporarily not free teenagers has created extraordinary opportunities for growth and mutual understanding that we hope they can be taken up again. One of our main objectives, when it will be possible to reopen again, will be to reconnect teens with each other. because this has truly been one of the most valuable and greatest experiences that the Destini Incrociati project has given us the opportunity to implement. Thank you. Thank you, Ivana, for your contribution. I would like to thank the whole Agita Association, which is made up of other operators, some of whom are also here with us today. I would now like to give the floor to Grazia Isoardi, coordinator and founder of the Voci Erranti project at the Saluzzo prison and now also at the Cuneo prison. She organized the previous national event of theatre in prison, Destini Incrociati, which you can also access thanks to a video documentation on the website www.teatrocarcere.it. To you, Grazia. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see you and hear you. I would like to briefly share with you our latest project at the Saluzzo prison, which has led to the drafting of an illustrated book for children. Perhaps it is not by chance that during our meeting this morning I have heard several times words related to parenting. Michalis's experience in Venice, Mimmo's women prisoners. It is not a coincidence, because I believe that among the many problems experienced by prisoners, the relationship between prisoners and their children and families is one of the most delicate and maybe problematic aspects of prison life. Delicate because it is really difficult to talk about one's own affections inside a prison. It does not always give, in any case not enough, tools and opportunities to talk about oneself as a parent. There's also the need that is not answered to be able to process this role. In general, I think that our collective imagination tells us those who err pay. But be careful, as we forget that it is not only the person who committed the crime that pays. How much does the family who stays home pay? How difficult it is for a child to be the son of a convict in these times, in this society, and how difficult it is for the father to break that bond, to do something for that very important rift. What kind of children have these prisoners been, and what adults will be those who are children today? I mean, I think it is an important subject. We cannot pretend not to see it, because the link, the connection with our roots is important for each one of us. And if prison freezes many aspects of life, this is one of, I think, the most important ones. It shouldn't be neglected. We were lucky enough to meet an association from Las Palmas in Gran Canaria, that is the Estia Association. This association has been running a project for 3 years with the title Padri e Madri Senza Bandiere, Fathers and Mothers Without Flags. It is a very important and innovative project organized by the Estia Association in the person of Professor Juan Carlos Martin of the University of Education Sciences and by the cultural operator educator Graziano Pellegrino. What are they doing in the island's 2 prisons? They are organizing and managing artistic and psychological courses, projects supporting the fathers in prison who choose and ask to be able to participate. At the same time, the same course is done with the family, especially with their children outside. I strongly believe in this choice. I do precisely because it is necessary to act on both fronts, and the importance of getting in touch with the projects, studies and research outside of our country can only enrich us all. I believe that this is the direction and the way to go. We have carried out a small project called Liberandia, which was approved and financed by the Compagnia di San Paolo Foundation and the Cassa di Risparmio di Torino, which enabled us to run a 6-month course with a group of 13 fathers in prison in Saluzzo. The aim was also to have them work in a playful way, especially through games and creative writing, together with their children. This aspect could unfortunately not be implemented because in the meantime the Saluzzo prison has become a high security prison, but with a psychologist, the anthropologist, with YOSUKE, who took part in the project, with an illustrator, as well as a young editor, together we could go on with this project. Working together, we all participated in this process for which writing was the main language, and the final product was this story, whose input came right exactly from the group that, at the end of the 6 months of activity together, chose some keywords. Those keywords became the ingredients that made up the story. A very strong keyword that was always present was the expression white lie. That shows the great difficulty of telling the truth to one's children and how necessary or not, right or wrong, the white lie is. I would like to just close my contribution with a very short trailer of this work, and I would like to invite you to read through the pages of this book, because perhaps it can tell everyone, those who are inside and those who are outside. It tells about this bond that is so strong and the need to recover the embrace. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie. Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you, Grazia. Thank you to you. Thank you. We have certainly experienced, thanks to this short trailer, the warmth of an embrace that we miss so much at this point in time. Michalis, I don't know if you wanted to add something as member of the planning group to the previous contribution of yours. And then we'll proceed and wrap up, Valeria and I. Michalis, very briefly, because I spoke a little bit earlier. Here, prompted by this work of Grazia's, I'd like to highlight all the work that has been done, that is being done, and that will surely continue to be done in prisons in Italy. I am thankful also for the opportunity we have to share these experiences. You will excuse me, but I feel Vito should be praised at this point as the facilitator of this project, the person that imagined and implemented this great effort, this opportunity. It was not easy to set up this project, this idea, this utopia, this dream that, in short, has given us the possibility to share different experiences and to promote them. I say this also because every time I happen to work in other contexts outside Italy, while talking about the experience of the national coordination, I come to realize that the Italian context is somehow ahead of time internationally. I say this not to brag, but to share with you the awareness that this small work there is perhaps an interruption. And so this is what I wanted to share, a little reflection of mine for the work that will be done from here on. Thank you. Thank you, Michalis. Let's go on now and wrap up this conference. Valeria, I'll give you the floor first, and then I'll say one more thing at the end. This is a great opportunity for me to reach to so many people and share the issue of the relationship that exists between artists and critics. Of course, in the national coordination, the connection with the Critics Association is very strong, as Vito is also on the board of the Critics Association. But the real problem is to create more perspectives on theatre events. So the idea I'd like to share is one we have already launched, but perhaps it is worth spreading more widely. The idea is to ask artists to identify people who, for their theatrical sensitivity and their desire to write, people that could be invited to watch theatre plays taking place in prison. We know very well that theatre critic has been in crisis for years. There is little space in the newspapers, and we could go on this matter. But we have the privilege with Vito of having Teatri, delle, diversità as a review and Ricercare as well. We have not only that. International relationship networks are widening, and we can therefore also host critical contributions from the world in the magazine, in the review. So, the invitation in wrapping up this fantastic morning that was very intense, very rich in food for thought, with the desire and pleasure of seeing each other again, So I said is to take advantage of this moment to remember this. We can create relationships between critics. These critics don't necessarily need to be established critics, but competent people in their sensitivity and writing. Whoever meets these people can also encourage them to write so that the review can host a greater number of perspective on what happens inside prisons. Obviously in theatrical terms, so that this network that Michalis mentioned earlier can continue in various forms, also by reading the things that have happened. Thanks to everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Valeria. What we have experienced together today is undoubtedly an experience of resilience. We cannot but recognize ourselves in this term. It is a form of resistance to what is happening, which does not allow us to meet in person. We are using and bending technology to our own use, obviously with a purpose. A purpose that sees us all engaged in a socially important work as well as culturally. Because we always talk about ethics and aesthetics in the theatrical work in prison, as they are both needed in more qualified and deeper experiences, obviously. I'm clearly pleased. I was very happy today to see so many friends and colleagues here that I have not seen for a long time. I would like to mention some of them, Anna and Giovanni, who are following us from Naples. It is really a pleasure to see you again after such a long time. But also many other protagonists who will contribute to the event that will be dedicated to Destini Incrociati in Rome. It will hopefully take place next spring, if we will be able to do it, because of COVID, of course. If COVID restrictions will not allow us to organize it as usual, after this first beautiful experience, we will organize it online just as we did today, and we will try to share all those beautiful contributions, video films and audio contribution that arrived from the Associazione Teatro in Bolla di Bollate in Milan. Many videos have been selected by the artistic direction that has also made this selection with care. Also, recognizing the quality of the works. I would like to mention them also because I see many of the directors here today that will obviously be active participants in Rome in the spring. So in Rome we will have the Associazione Teatro in Bolla of the Bollate prison in Milan, but also the Empa Theatre. I wish to greet Alessandro Bianchi, I saw him online. In time, video of the Petra Cultural Association which operates in Matera and Potenza. I did not see them online, but I think they had registered for the Zoom meeting. I'm here, Vito. Oh, hi, Antonella. I didn't see you because my screen shows a limited number of webcams and I decided not to touch anything on the PC so as to reduce any risk. Hello. Thank you, Antonella, for being with us. So I was mentioning the Associazione Culturale Petra, as well as Giorgio Flamini. I saw you online. Thank you, Giorgio. Thank you for being with us from Spoleto for the company Sine Nomine Teatro, who will present to us Storia Vera Capit con me. Il mio grido and In Tangout are two videos by Vito Alfarano and Alfa Zeta TL company from working in the prison of Brindisi. Scatenati attori dietro le sbarre, which documents the work of the company Il Teatro Necessario Onlus from Genoa Marassi. I saw Mirella online earlier. Maybe she's still with us? I say hello anyway. Ulisse e i colori della mente, the work Gianfranco Pedullar referred to earlier, will be presented on video. We had planned and still hope to do so in the spring, a small performance taken from the show produced on the island of Gorgona. Titus Andronicus, La tragedia delle tragedie, a video that is already shared within this conference and that can still be seen until midnight today, like all the other materials in the reserved area of the Teatri, delle Diversità website, edited by the company Progetti e Teatro, directed by Carlo Ferrari and Franca Tragni. I saw you, Carlo. Hello. And then Rugby Corpo Corpo, the pedagogical experience of theatre imprisoned by the Enigma Theatre, directed by Francesco Gigliotti. Un'acerba felicità, again, Teatro Metropopolare, directed by Livia Gionfrida, a video made in the Pontremoli juvenile prison a few years ago. Prison Shakespeare is a video that has been edited for us by Fabio Cavalli of the Cultural Association La Ribalta, Centro Studi Enrico Maria Salerno, on the experience of the Free Theatre of Rebibbia in Rome. Eva Sogni, on the other hand, is an extract from the documentary with the same name by Francesca Tricarico and Cambi Faris on the theatrical activity of the company Le Donne del Muro Alto, actresses detained at the Rebibbia Women's Prison. Francesca had also prepared a meeting with some actresses who, having served their sentences, are continuing to do theatre with her in Rome. This is also very good news. Il Piccolo Amleto closes this video review. Directed by Federico Cruciani, this project focuses on the work by director Claudio Collova with the minors, followed by the social services of Palermo. Minors really constitute a very important part of our work. And I'm happy to say that last year the Eduardo De Filippo Foundation of Naples also joined our national coordination. It reflects the spirit of Eduardo, who was the first life senator invited to join Parliament by President Pertini and who had paved the way for the recovery of young people from crime. The connection and collaboration with the Critics Association will continue in Destini Incrociati. Everything was ready and set to award the Theatre Critics Prize within our initiative at the Palladium Theatre. A prize will be awarded to various artists in the upcoming 2 weeks. Though we are at a standstill now, we may still see our initiative as the occasion to award these prizes in spring. We will see Captivity again with Mimmo Sorrentino. Among other things, the film also includes a part of the tour made with the women of the Vigevano prison, with the performance L'infanzia nell'alta sicurezza within the edition of Destini Incrociati. The latter was already hosted in 2017 by the Roma Tre University in Rome. This initiative will, as a consequence, be a connection day, paving the way towards the 8th edition of Destini Incrociati that we hope to have once again in Rome at the Roma Tre University. This time, however, we are planning a 3-day event, hopefully in November 2021, when we will meet and embrace each other again and watch live performances and not just videos. With this hope, of course, I wish to send everyone a personal greeting. Thank you all for participating. There are now 51 people still online, and we have never had less than 50 participants. An extraordinary participation. As it is the end of the conference, Antonio, who worked in the direction with Gloria, Romina, and Elena, is telling me that you can turn on the microphones and share your greetings so we can hear everyone's voices. Bye. Goodbye. See you next time. Goodbye. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very interesting. Bye. See you soon. See you soon indeed.